Hey Pierre, how are you? Yeah, maybe a little bit of background noise, but hopefully won't affect your enjoyment of proceedings. This is not, in fact, your whole reel of golf swings one after the other. You probably recognise that this is the same one on loop, hence the extremely high degree of sameness. I felt like we'd start with this angle because we discussed your swing predominantly from this angle before on the thread, and we can look to see what sort of progresses have been made. And also, yeah, there was certainly the one after this was a bit of a duff. I could tell by your body language that it wasn't so nice. So, yeah, we'll just use this one as a sort of benchmark because there is a decent degree of sameness in all the swings, but of course we make mistakes and we mess up swings from time to time. Anyway, the way we're going to look at this, I think to begin with, we'll just check in on those impact conditions, which isn't the chronological order of things, but it certainly is the order of emphasis we've placed on you and your golf. I know your last game wasn't everything you wished it to be, but good to see a little bit of footwork here. Good to see a little bit of hip rotation. Certainly we've got a view of at least some of your left butt cheek and right butt cheek, and we've got a little bit of flex remaining in the right arm. Pretty decent impact conditions. Now, something I've not done explicitly before with you. This line is basically your swing plane. Now, biomechanically speaking, your club is going to need to travel through the space the ball is in, and in a perfect world, your golf club would travel back and forth on this line. We're looking at a line in a certain sense. I hope this makes sense. You might need me to clarify this. I hope I remember to do it in a piece to camera later on, but I've got other things planned mainly. But you're looking at a circle or a cross section of a circle, so a circle from sideways on. If you drew a circle and then you drew it on a pane of glass and then you turn that pane of glass sideways on, it would appear as a line. So we're looking at this line. Does this club of yours travel obediently back and forth along this line? We can see the club just goes a whisker underneath. Now, many coaches, myself included, quite frankly, are going to want to see the left arm and the shaft of the club. I wouldn't mind seeing your hand sitting more on this line and the club face, I hope I've done a reasonable example there, that's as if the shaft of the club were pointing gun barrel straight, parallel with your feet at this point, pointing directly back towards us and our viewing predicament. All I'm suggesting is that club has got a little bit behind your hands. It's gone a little bit underneath and got a bit behind your hands, but it's certainly not chronic, and it's certainly a place that a lot of golfers recover very well indeed from. But at the halfway back point, that's perfectly fine, my dear chap. Carry on to the end of your backswing. And I think we could argue, it could be argued, you can see the angle the club faces on there is similar to that the back of your left arm is on. But we have achieved quite a flat position, and by that I mean this. Let's just colour that in nice and vividly. The mass of the club is balanced outside of your heels a little bit, and there's a bit of separation between your forearms. So I'm going to highlight that in a little tip I've got for you in a second, and you can obviously film video and draw this line, this yellow line, this swing plane line, and focus and highlight whether the path of your swing is being compliant with the biomechanical ideal. So the club goes a little bit under that plane, and the club arrives consequently, certainly the way your swing is built at the moment, the club arrives a little flat, as you might call it, a little bit underneath, a little bit behind you, which isn't the end of the world, but you might do well to have it a little bit more stable. So we want the apex above your base. I'll touch on that when I film something in front of the camera in a second and strap it on the end of this footage, this feedback. The club then travels back towards the plane of swing, but arrives from underneath. Let's see where she exits. And it exits underneath as well. You can just about make out the shaft there. Certainly you can make out the head, the shaft a little bit under. So it's travelling, we'll wind that back, spool that back, it's travelling a little from underneath this line, then back underneath that line. Bit of a crude drawing, but it'll be easy to show you what I mean when I'm doing things to camera. So there's quite a roundedness to your swing. So the amount of time where the club spends pointing towards the target is minimised by that. But you can see quite a lot of sort of hands action. I think that's a throwback to when your body wasn't rotating as much. So we're going to see that gradually self-regulate and quieten itself down, and I think you'll become accustomed to that. But a lot's to be pleased with, but I'm going to emphasize getting a little bit flat in the backswing, tiny bit of separation between the forearms, but it's not crazy. We can see a lot of your bicep here. I'll touch on that in just a second. And the club travels from underneath, gets back onto the into the impact zone, and then disappears back underneath again. So it's just a sign that there's quite active hands and forearms in the swing at the moment, which can lead to volatility with accuracy. When you get it right, it's like nothing. There was never a problem. Anyway, moving on to the front on view. So look, really nice even weight distribution. Your right hand is below your left on the handle, so should stand to reason that your right shoulder is lower than your left. So that kind of body shape there is very much what you're going to want to see in any conventional right-handed golf swing. There's a little bit of flare to your lead foot. I hope that's in response to what we did. That right foot flared out a little bit. Sorry about the way this software blinks every time I touch the screen. It's not my idea. I'm not a massive fan of the upgrade. You'll have to speak to the ITs about that. Complain to them. Shaft sitting very perpendicular, which I happen to quite like. Just straight up, straight down. It's all good. I like that. Very neutral hold. I got a lot of time for it, Pierre, I have to say. We'll just run it through in slow-mo. I mean, if we do run it through at normal speed, all right, it might be a little bit more apparent what from the front on angle I wouldn't mind you working on a little bit. But you can kind of see that your head moves towards the end of the backswing off a little bit. I think you're pretty stable there. I like to see chest pointing towards the ground. I don't like to see excessive straightness and hyperextension of the right side. A little bit of heel lift and a little bit of softening of the left knee, which gives the illusion I think the left side's a little bit more curved. But it's not bad. I mean, again, I wouldn't massively say you have to move away from the target. Your head ends up sort of above your right thigh, which isn't a terrible place for it to be. There are worse places. But you can see you're working back towards the target to get your head back to where it started. And that kind of just keeps on going forwards towards the target. That's not a trend. I'm going to throw in a little bit of stock footage before I do my demonstration. But that's not a trend that you'll see in the most powerful hitters. It's almost like your head goes away from the target and then just keeps on traveling towards the target. Let's do that right again. Away from the target and then traveling towards the target, which is all right. And in the majority of ways, I want you to keep doing what you're doing with your hitting, on your right side. And I want you to work a little bit on that backswing and the thoughts that I'm about to give you. But from the front on perspective, I'll just make one key point. I'll give you one illustration, one inspiration. But before I do, I'm going to recruit somebody else. Bear with me a second. Now, John Rahm isn't the only show in town, but I'm going to mark the position of his starting position of his left shoulder and also the position of his head. Now, it is true to say he will move away, but then when he changes direction, recenters somewhat, but his head is not moving towards the target. If anything else, it would be fairer, truer to say that it's moving away from the target as the club moves towards the target. Yes, eventually it will release. It's not so much like he's keeping his face pointing towards the ball to make sure he's getting a good look at what he's hitting. It's more holding his ground, staying centered versus the impending and very, very rapidly increasing centripetal force that he's generating. We call that power, my dear chap, and I'll mention that again in a minute. But as I say, John Rahm, not the only show in town. There are many and varied. I'll go back old school. I'll go to Seve. Here's Seve giving you a similar demonstration of the way a golf swing can work. And let's just mark the starting position of his left shoulder and his head. So we'll see him work away like John Rahm does, come back somewhat, but then his head stops moving towards the target, and if anything, he's going away from the target through impact. So it's not just a modern phenomenon, not just something you can notice from modern incarnations of the golf. But we're going to look for Tommy. He'll serve us. I will do a front on of Tommy Fleetwood. So here's another guy who will demonstrate the same principle. His left shoulder will never get any closer to the hole, and if anything, his head is further away from the target when he hits the ball. Not absolutely essential, but you certainly don't want your head constantly moving towards the target, as you'll potentially hemorrhage power and consistency. Anyway, we'll make that point to camera just now. Hey Pierre, okay, so as mentioned just moments ago, I've put an alignment aid down on the ground to give you a sense of my broader body alignment and what might be your own alignment. So yeah, if I stand in front and on the camera lens I draw a circle, and then I take this screen and I turn it sideways on, that circle becomes a straight line. And hang on one moment. That circle, when turned sideways on, becomes a straight line. So that line I've drawn is a representation of the circle you draw from front on with your golf club through the air. From sideways on, it looks like a line. So that's going through the middle of your upper sternum, which is where you generate the vast majority of your power from a nice rotation of your upper body, which is why recently we needed to get your body rotating and the club on your right hand side, because you can apply force like that. You'll remember our arm wrestle. Now onto the side on view. So fairly early in your backswing, the club goes underneath the swing plane, so your left arm gets a little bit across your body. So that leads to the club to arrive at a destination where we could construe it as a little bit flat. If you let go of your club, it would fall onto the ground behind you. So what we're after, any stable structure, you want your apex built somewhere above, vertically above your base. So when you arrive, take the club on a slightly more direct straight back. You can see halfway through my backswing here, the shaft of the club, my left arm line up parallel with the alignment aid on the ground. You can even see the shadow that my golf club is casting is sitting very much on top of that line. So we take the club to halfway back. We don't want the club head getting too far around us. We don't want the shaft pointing too far behind us too quickly. So we take it halfway back, and we don't want the club to get behind our hands too soon. So it's almost like you're going to want to take the club a little bit more directly away from the target at this point, and then let momentum take you on to the end of your backswing. In an ideal world, your hands, and I'm just getting closer to the camera so I can see because you're a long way away from me, your hands are vertically above your right shoulder, right collarbone type area. So each time you're doing your backswing, you're trying to find a place where your apex of your tower is vertically above the base that you've built, and that will give you stability. From that front on angle, lovely to see your chest facing the ground here. We move away from the target a little bit, but you can see you gradually and evenly move back towards the target as you're doing your thing. So your head just keeps on going towards the target. That's the equivalent of something like this. If you wrap up a towel in a locker room as a kind of a team player prank, they might wrap up a wet towel or something and try and whack somebody on the backside with it. I won't go into too much detail for obvious reasons, but your hand that's connected to the towel needs at some point to go in the opposite direction to the direction of travel of that towel, and then that opposition creates that snap. So you almost see with these top players, in fact you do see with these top players, you can see that they almost appear to go in the opposite direction to where the club is going. It's like an opposition that they create. So you almost want to feel like your head is being held back against the direction of your swing. Now of course, neck muscles, lateral muscles, their willingness to impact with the club on your right hand side whilst still avoiding your neck and head releasing towards the target. I don't mind if your face and chest want to continuously rotate towards the target. That won't pose a problem. But it's when your rotation stalls and your head starts moving towards the target sideways, we get into potential problems with generating power easily. We can generate some power, but probably not as much as you'd like. And we get inconsistencies when the center of your swing, a point inside your upper body, when that's moving to the side, you see my head will tend to follow. If it's moving down, my head will follow it down. Moving up, my head will tend to follow it up. So sideways, upwards, downwards, it's always pretty undesirable. If we stay more or less in the same place, this is quite a good drill for a feel for your backswing. You can pretend to be Robin Hood All right, you can pretend you've got that forward lean, you're firing an arrow towards the ball, and you just rotate like that, and that should keep you largely in the same place. That's pure rotation. I don't mind if you want a little bit of lateral movement to go with it, but certainly in the forward direction, it's just pure rotation on the way forwards. Hit on your right, line the club up, but we don't really benefit much on the way forwards. Instead of just rotation, we don't benefit much from this sort of forward lean, unless of course we're content to hit shots where our angle into the ball is much steeper, and you'll hit, potentially lower trajectories and lower shots, which sometimes can be useful. So we're not going to rule it out, but I would politely say that hitting down onto the ball for every single shot just simply isn't necessary. It's a great idea for some shots, but it's not absolutely necessary for all shots. So just watch out for excessive sideways movement. Try and keep that head largely centered. One of these back and one of these through would be the feel. So pure rotation, anything that has pure rotation in it is a good thing to emulate. And your backswing, halfway back, a checkpoint, the shaft and left arm line. I can see a bit of daylight between my body and my arm at this point, which is kind of normal to see. If my left arm hugs my chest and goes round me, my momentum goes a little bit flat. And one last point, we do see on the way forwards that your club travels a little bit from quite a flat position, which will likely subside if we don't get so flat. Club travels from underneath that playing line, gets back out to the ball, and then disappears back underneath that plane on the way through. So we've got quite a lot of in to square to in, roundedness to your swing. So the amount of time that the club spends, if you imagine drawing any kind of circle, we want part of that circle, a decent chunk of it, to be online to the target, as I'm illustrating here. If it's traveling from inside you, back to the target, and then back inside, that's a sign that the forearms are rotating quite aggressively, which, when there's a lack of body rotation, might be one effort that your instincts make to try and make up for a lack of body rotation with some kind of flipping of the hands and the arms and stuff to generate some extracurricular force. But I think it's a poor man's version. So I think as you start to get more profoundly adept and powerful in your rotation, your arms will listen to your body. So your body swings your arms, then your body arms, should I say, working around your body, your rotation stopping and your arms carrying on, which is what used to happen. I think that's my suspicion as to why historically or right now we're maybe getting quite active with our hands and arms, quite active on the way back, quite active on the way through. So in to square to in. We're getting like that because that's how it's been. When we get more body rotation, I think you'll find it easier to keep your club a little bit more backwards and upwards, steeper backswing position, more upright, you might call it that. Rotate through, impact on your right, and that club will exit pretty much on plane on the way forwards as well. I think you'll see, but don't want to overdo it. I know you can. The beauty of this video is you can watch it back over and over again, and you can make sure that you are comfortable with the ideas. You can discuss any points I make in this video with me. We can see if we can clarify a few things easily, and there might be videos that I've done on the website that I can share with you that also will allow you to clarify your thoughts and feelings. I certainly know there are several backswing videos. I might have even sneakily seen you liking a couple of those backswing videos, so I know you've been interested by them anyway. But by now this will be on YouTube and it's there forever, so you can always look back at it for reference. A couple little nuggets will keep you moving in the right direction, mate. And yeah, just I guess see me after school as always. Enjoy your practice, crack on with that for a little while, and we'll check in with you again very soon, certainly in the next month or so. All right, mate, look after yourself. Good to see you in a certain funny kind of way. All right, cheers, mate, bye.